Hi, and welcome back to the Return Homestead. Today we're going to work on digging up the rest of our sweet potatoes. This is what we have left from last year. And last year's harvest was good. We got about 4 of these crates. This year, we're not getting such a harvest. I think it was very warm and very dry. We're new to Kentucky. This is only our second summer, so we're still learning how to garden here. We're used to gardening in high desert, very alkaline soil, if you want to call it soil. Here, it is very clay. So for potatoes to grow, and the sweet potatoes grow down like this, they really have to struggle to get through that clay. These potatoes will not go to waste. These potato slips, I'll probably get 6 or 7 potatoes out of this one. Each one of these slips will make a plant. We can encourage this growth by putting them in a dark closet. They will continue to grow over the winter. And then 6 weeks before our last frost, we can put them in the ground. Sweet potatoes like 85 degree weather, but so do regular potatoes. They're a hot weather plant. However, this year we broke the record. So you might have had the same problem as we did, but it won't go to waste. You can also take the potato slips and plant them in a pot in the house. This one's even got leaves on it. So I put it in a pot with some potting soil, and it will grow all winter long in our house. And sweet potato vines are very pretty. So if you want a free plant, you can do that. In the spring, you can dump this pot out, put it in the ground, and you've got a head start. If we get the cold frames up in time for the next year's planting, then all of these will produce multiple slips and we won't have to buy them again. Now with the regular potatoes, we ended up getting 6 crates like this. I walked into the pantry yesterday and the smell in there wasn't so pretty. So if you've ever smelled a rotten potato, sort of like smelling a rotten mouse that's got caught somewhere under your house, you don't miss that smell. So I knew I had bad potatoes. I thought it was my homegrown. This is why we go through all the trouble to grow food when we could just go down to the store and buy it, even if we don't know what kind of yield we're going to get. This is one of my homegrown potatoes. Every one of these in the pantry is holding up firm like this one, and they're doing great. So it wasn't my homegrown potatoes, which I was extremely happy about. What it was is we had a neighbor bring us several bags of these small red potatoes. The problem when you buy produce at a market is you don't really know how far it's traveled, how long it's been out of the ground, how long it's sat on a store shelf. You just don't know. And it was these that were going bad. That was the smell I smelled. So what I decided to do is I've boiled these all up. I'm going to mash them without any milk, butter, or seasonings, because that way I can season them as I wish. I'm going to mash them up. I'll put them in freezer bags like this and put them in the freezer. Now once the temperature drops here in Kentucky, where I can run my freeze dryer out in the freezer room, then I'm going to freeze dry these. I will make a powder out of them, and then they're ready to go for any meal that we'd be wanting all winter long. So I basically would do if you were to go out and buy packaged mashed potatoes. Anyway, you add milk, butter, and water to those. You mix them with a fork for a minute and you have instant mashed potatoes. These are yours. And this is your version of instant mashed potatoes. They'll have a shelf life in a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber for 25 to 30 years. So I don't want to lose any more. I hate it when I lose produce. I prayed over my garden to make sure it would grow great. Promised the Lord that I wouldn't waste anything. And I did lose a few. But these will not go to waste. So I'm going to peel them, mash them, put them in a bag until I can run my freeze dryer. The freeze dryer is out in the freezer room and we don't have air conditioning out there. It takes a lot longer to pull the moisture out if it's not temperature controlled. So once the temperature starts falling, the pump will run just fine. I can still run it, just takes twice as long to process, and I don't want to waste the electricity doing that, even though running a freeze dryer doesn't cost that much. Enough talking. I'm going to get busy peeling these, mashing them, getting them into a couple of bags and into the freezer for later on to process. Now, in order to freeze potatoes, they have a lot of starch in them. And if you don't cook them first, they'll turn black. That won't hurt the potato, but I don't want to eat black potatoes. That to me does not look appetizing. So what I'm going to do is I'll start peeling these and put them in salt water to keep them from turning. Then I will process them, and a little salt won't hurt. I'm not going to be making any kind of sweet meal out of these, but you have to parboil them, or at least boil them until they're fork tender. So in the pan I've got some cold water. To that I'm going to add some salt. Just regular non-iodized salt. This is just to keep the potatoes from turning brown or black while you're processing them. And I'm going to start peeling. You could peel them prior to cooking them. I'm always in a hurry, too many things to do. So I'm going to peel them as I go. It's not that hard. Once I'm done pulling all these skins off, nothing goes to waste here. So I'll feed it to the chickens, they'll eat it. Honestly, chickens and goats will eat just about anything. Goats are a little more picky than you'd think though. Okay, so now all my potatoes have been peeled. I've smashed them with a potato masher. They're not whipped. That's not what I'm going for. I just need them smaller so that I can put them in freeze dryer trays. You don't want to have them in big chunks because what will happen as it's freeze drying, the center of those big chunks won't get done quite as well. And you don't want any moisture in these because if you do, they'll mold. They're no good. You have to throw them out. Paper, put the potatoes on top of the... You're early. So this isn't the only way you can preserve potatoes. Remember, if you're going to use mashed potatoes, you want to cook them until they're fork tender so you can insert a fork easily. Then mash them, stick them in freezer bags, and you can just throw them in the freezer. And when you're ready to use them, heat them up, add what milk and butter you want. I'm going to be freeze drying these, so I didn't want to add fat because that shortens the shelf life on freeze dried. You can cut them into discs and blanch them for 3 to 5 minutes. You must do that or they'll turn black once they freeze. Blanch them for 3 to 5 minutes. Take them out, put them on a cookie sheet with parchment paper or whatever. I don't like to use foil on it. Stick them in the freezer and freeze them just enough so they don't stick together when you throw them in a bag. And then you can use them for au gratin potatoes or scallop potatoes. You can cut them into French fries. Again, flash freeze those after you blanch them for 3 to 5 minutes. It really depends on how big of chunks or how big the pieces of potatoes that you have. And you're going to blanch those 3 to 5 minutes. You're going to flash freeze those, and then you can put them in bags, and then as you want to cook, you could throw them into hot oil and you have French fries. These I'm going to freeze, and I'm going to make a powder out of them once they're freeze dried, and then I can put them in Mylar bags and they're shelf stable for 25 to 30 years. You can also can potatoes. You can dry pack them or wet pack them. So there's so many ways to preserve them. If you have a cool enough place to keep them low in humidity, they'll winter. Ours kept here in air conditioning, dark, in a dark closet for the whole year. My sweet potatoes, the smaller ones, are now starting to sprout, which is fine because I'm going to use those as seed potatoes. We ate all the bigger ones. We were going to go out and dig up the rest of the potatoes, the ones I didn't demolish, by cutting them in half or sticking a potato fork in them. Our clay is so thick here. Maybe next year we'll try putting them in buckets. We've done that before. Buckets are easy to turn over and just uproot your potatoes. Here you have to dig in the clay. It looks like we got an okay harvest, not a great big one, but we got a harvest and I'm very thankful for that. I'm going to label them. You think you'll remember, but you won't. And I'm going to put the date on it, and that's it. They're ready to go in the freezer. Well, thank you for coming along with me today. Preserving potatoes so that we don't lose any of the harvest. We were going to finish our harvest up on the sweet potatoes, but we've got a big storm coming our way. It's not going to be severe, but it is a storm, and you don't want to dig potatoes when it's raining. Please like and subscribe to the channel. We're getting very close to the goal we've set. Give us a thumbs up while you're in there. And until next time, bye-bye.